Hello everyone! This is our first video dahil nga June ngayon, naisipan ko na i-share sa inyo tong verse na to. Or actually verses, and these are taken from my preaching last Sunday kasi ako yung nakaschedule doon sa church namin sa Apari. And it is from Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 to 22 and verses 7 to 24. Since this is going to be a long scripture, i-shortcut natin siya, kukunin ko lang yung mga verses na pagfofocusan natin. And this actually is called, or this describes the condemnation of all things. And when we say all, ibig sabihin lahat talaga yan. Nobody or no one is exempted. But in this case, we will see later on what God will do to this family or to these people. So, sa chapter 6 verses 1 to 22, this is all about the preparation for the flood. So there are three things that we have to learn in this chapter or in these verses. First is God's grief. So in verses 1 to 7, lalo na sa 5 to 7, sabi dito, "The Lord saw how great man's wickedness on the earth had become, and that every inclination of the evil thoughts of his heart was only evil all the time. The Lord was grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind, whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground, and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them." So here, makikita natin yung verse na grieved. So for this section, we can see God's grief really, kasi dalawang beses pa niyang mention yung grief. Why? Because everything and everyone on earth, everywhere and at all times, they sin. They do evil things. That's why God grieved. Section 2 is we have God's grace. Makikita natin siya sa verses 8 to 10. This is very wonderful actually. Sabi niya dito, verse 8, "But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord." This is the account of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So we see here he is a living proof that still there are people who serve the Master, who serve the Father, who serve the Lord. Kahit na yung mundong ginagalawan natin it is already wicked. And that is Noah. And what's very promising here is yung na-mention yung names ng kanyang sons. While on the Bible, there are many sons, pero sometimes, or children, sometimes hindi na na-mention yung names nila. But unlike Shem, Japheth, and Ham, sila na-mention mismo yung names nila. Ibig sabihin, there is something significant in them. And malalaman din natin siya mamaya. So, after God's grief, there came God's grace to the family of Noah kasi hindi siya naging wicked. Kasi he kept on serving the Lord. Kasi he kept on doing the things that pleases the Lord. So, came God's grace. And then finally, God's guidance. Binigay niya ito kay Noah from verses 11 to 22. But there are 2 parts. First is the destruction. So this is what God is going to do. He will destroy the earth, all the people and all the animals that he has created, except for Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and the 3 wives of his sons. And of course, every pair of animals created by God. And next, after the destruction, will be the construction. So this is what Noah will do. There are instructions given by God. And you know what? Ito yung pinaka nakakatch sa akin. Verses 22, it says here, "Noah did everything just as God commanded him." Hindi niya sinabi si Noah, pumili siya ng susundan niya sa mga instructions ni Lord. But no, sabi dito, everything. Because kung aminin ko, sometimes kapag may sinabi sa akin si Papa noon, pipili lang ako ng mga gusto kong gawin doon. Pag meron akong hindi bet, hindi ko siya gagawin. But for Noah, he did everything just as God commanded him. Wala siyang exemptions, wala siyang hindi ginawa. but lahat talaga sinunod niya yung instructions ni Lord sa kanya. And you know what? Upon completion, Noah is to bring his family inside. And inside that ark that he built, that he and his family built, was covering. God's protection was in there. Mahahanap natin siya sa next chapter, chapter 7, verses 1 to 24. It's amazing that Noah was called. And at the same time, because of that calling, his family saw his obedience. And God proved that when He calls a man, He actually calls the family. Kasi sabi dito, na-please si Lord doon sa mga ginagawa ni Noah, sa obedience, sa heart ni Noah. And who was protected, who was covered? It was his whole family. Why? Because who worked for that ark? It wasn't Noah alone. Tinulungan siya ng pamilya niya. And maybe they didn't question him. Maybe they weren't really against him. Kasi natapos nila yon. If there was questioning, if there was doubt, siguro matagal nilang natapos, hindi nila nasundan ng maayos. But because there was agreement, because meron silang unity in their family, because they believed that their father was called for this, they followed him. They followed his footsteps. And for that matter, it wasn't only Noah who was saved, but as promised by God, it was his whole family, including yung mga in-laws niya. So if you want your family to be protected, you obey. If you want your family to be protected and covered, have your calling recognized. Uy, yun lang. Ang ganda lang kasi ng verse na to. Ang ganda ng tinuturo sa atin ng Lord. When God calls a man, He calls a family. So it's time for you to work for the kingdom of the Lord. If one of your family members is actually going to church, is actually being used by God and for God's glory, then congratulations. You will be protected, you will be covered as long as makipagtrabaho ka din sa art na ginagawa nila. Yun lang.